I am feeling a little under the weather. I do want to thank you so much. It is a great, thank you, Director, to be in the midst of progressives. Electra told me, because I was feeling a little down, she said, you're about to go into a room and all the energy is just going to permeate because you're with the battleground born progressives. So it is such a pleasure to be here with you. You know, I just want to start off saying titles are good, but purpose is better. And I want that to be our foundational point for our conversation today, because we got a whole bunch of folks with titles. And titles might get you in the room, they might get your calls returned, but if you don't understand your purpose, and if you don't put purpose over position, then that title means nothing. As the director was reading just a little bit of my bio, and I want to tell you something, my support of Senator Bernie Sanders is personal. And I'm going to get you there, but I just kind of got to go back in time just a little bit. In 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave a speech in Detroit. And in his speech, he was reminding the faithful that you're going to have folks that tell you that we should move slowly, that gradual progress is the way to go. But he affirmed that day in 1963 in Detroit that going gradually, going slow, taking it easy, that wait almost always means never. And so when we're dealing with our sisters and brothers in this country who are underemployed, they don't want to hear anything about gradual. If you're talking to the 29 million folks in this country who do not have health care, gradual is not going to get it. People in this country, because the system is rigged, they need a leader who is ready to take it to the status quo unapologetically, and that is Senator Bernie Sanders. So I'm feeling the burn. Titles are good and purpose is better. So for me, this is where my personal story juxtapositions with Senator Bernie Sanders' run. I am the oldest of 7 children. And I started off at a community college just like this. And I'll never forget the day that my husband and I were told to go to the hospital after long days of work. The note was on the refrigerator door. We didn't have text messages and all that stuff in the dark ages. Just good old-fashioned note on the refrigerator door. Right, goddess? Right? So I was not, though, prepared for what was going to happen. That my husband and I got to the hospital, my mother was there, and I didn't think anything of it because my mother had a history of high blood pressure. I thought it was just one of those things. Little did I know that that day was going to be a defining moment for me and my siblings. When we got there, we were escorted to a room called the family room. We opened the door, and all of my siblings were already there, and they were crying. I have one brother, he is 6 feet 5 inches tall, and I had not seen him cry since he was a little boy. The doctor walked into the room and she said, "Family, I hate to inform you, but your mother is in a coma." And I asked the doctor, could I go to the room where my mother was, the woman who was not perfect, but she nurtured 7 children. She tried to do the very best that she could. When I got to the room, sisters and brothers, I noticed that my mother's eyes were rolled to the back of her head and her tongue was hanging out of the left side of her mouth, and I could no longer contain myself. As the tears started to stream down my face, I started to have a flashback. In the African-American tradition, there is a song called How I Got Over. My soul looks back and wonders how I got over. My mother was an evangelist. She was a spiritual woman, and we went to church all the time, and we believed in the spiritual tenets of the Christian doctrine as my siblings and I prayed by my mother's bedside for her to come out of that coma. But she never did. And the doctor told me as the oldest child that I had to make a decision about pulling the plug because the machine that was next to my mother's bed was the only thing that was keeping her alive. And oh, by the way, would I like to donate her organs? Progressives, that day was the hardest decision I've ever had to make in my life to this point. But I had a conversation with the creator of the universe, and I said, Lord, if you have mercy on my soul and you give me strength, I will become a cycle breaker for my mother's memory. So every degree that I took from Cuyahoga Community College, where futures began, I took that degree in my mama's name when I matriculated to university, public university. I took both of those degrees in my mother's name. Every oath of office that I've ever taken, I've taken that oath in my mother's name. Although she never lived, she died at the age of 42 years old with her dreams deferred. I was 22. My baby sister was 12 years old. My mother died on the system of welfare. Not a nickel in the bank and not a life insurance policy. Nothing. And she was born a single child of solidly middle-class parents. My grandfather fought in World War II. My mother could have grown up to be anything that she wanted to be. But sisters and brothers, how many of us know that everybody doesn't run the race at the same pace? So when I juxtaposition my journey with what Senator Bernie Sanders wants to bring to this nation, I think about my poor mother and other poor mamas and daddies just like her, who tried their hardest, working 2 and 3 jobs. They tried their hardest to make it, but the system is rigged. For me, this is personal. When the senator talks about universal health care for all folks in the greatest country on the face of the earth, I flash back to my mama. This is personal. When I think about what it took to become a first-generation college graduate, and I think about our young people today as they take their degree in one hand and saddled with debt in the other, this is personal. But for my husband and I, it wasn't so much our college education. It was really when our son walked across the stage, we knew that the cycle had been broken and generations of Turners would never turn back. When Senator Bernie Sanders says that this nation needs to prioritize its priorities and put people first, that speaks to me. So when people say that we cannot have universal health care for all, we cannot afford to fund college education for every child in this country, I think something is wrong with that, because as the great United States of America, we wouldn't be the country that we are today without the 13 colonies saying to King George, I don't think so. We're going to fight the good fight. We're going to fight against the status quo. We will be the United States of America. So, progressives, we can't go from yes we can to no we can't. And it bothers me to have folks who can tell poor people and barely middle-class people that what Senator Bernie Sanders is fighting for is too much. Many of you remember that our Republican brothers and sisters shut our government down, costing the taxpayers in this country $26 billion, set ablaze. They didn't bat an eye. We don't even think about how we fund Wall Street, but we have to haggle over whether or not we're going to lift our sisters and our brothers. This is personal for me. And let me say for Sister Lucy Flores, who is not here, my dear sister, she is the reason why I'm here today. She is a progressive in every right. She's never taken the easy road. And in 2014, we both were running. I was running for Secretary of State, and she was running for Lieutenant Governor in this great state, and now she is running for Congress. See, Senator Sanders knows that he can't do it by himself, that it takes teamwork to make the dream work. We need more progressives in that Congress. And with all the excitement that is swirling around Senator Bernie Sanders, it will allow the statewide office holders, the legislatures in this country, and the Congress. 2018 is just as important as 2016, brothers and sisters. We got to do this thing. Because the next Democrat needs a Congress that they can work with. So this is personal for me. Gradual just doesn't get it. For me. To my ladies out there, if the suffragettes wasn't willing to fight against the status quo, we wouldn't have the right to vote in this country. Oh no, we're not going from yes we can to no we can't. And for my ancestors, for the folks whose skin has been kissed by the sun, who were enslaved in this country, if my foreparents didn't have what it took to fight against the status quo, I wouldn't be standing here before you today. Sometimes you need folks who are willing to give of themselves, to take it to the system, to say enough is enough is enough. And that is Senator Bernie Sanders. Yes, that is him. So it's personal. Titles are good, but purpose is better. We are a visionary country. We would have never gone to the moon.
Right.
Just think about that stuff when folks tell you, take it slow, go gradual. This can't happen. We got enough money to bail out, too big to fail. But we don't have enough money to extend Social Security benefits. Enough money to give women equal pay for equal work. Ladies, we want our whole damn dollar. We want it. We want to know that folks will have access to the ballot box, unfettered access to the ballot box. Because that is the greatest equalizer that we have. Titles are good, but purpose is better. And Senator Sanders is not new to this. Ever since he had a consciousness as a college student, being a member of CORE and fighting against the segregationist policies at the University of Chicago, he was a member of CORE. He marched with Dr. Martin Luther King. He has always had a drum major for justice mentality since he was in his early 20s. He was for our gay and lesbian brothers and sisters. He's been progressive before progressive was cool. We just catching up. We catching up. That's the kind of leader I want. You know, I had an opportunity to talk to a young sister yesterday whose son is thinking about going to the military. She said, Senator Turner, I want the next president of the United States of America to be a person that understands that sometimes diplomacy is the answer, because I don't necessarily want my son in war. Even though he signs up for the military, I want somebody who understands that's flesh and blood that we're talking about. That negotiation sometimes. And trust you me, Senator Bernie Sanders will not hesitate to take it to any enemy, domestic or foreign. Yeah. But he has the judgment necessary to lead this country. He voted against the Iraq war. He was right then, and he is right now. This is personal to me. Titles are good, but purpose is better. So, sister, but I want to end with this, and the director is right. Whoever you want to vote for, let me just say this: we are better together, no matter what. No matter what happens in this primary, we got to come back together and take it to the Republicans. We got a Supreme Court in play. But I want you to have this same energy and this same fire every single election cycle. Because sisters and brothers, we can't nation build every 4 years. Nation building happens every single year. The reason why Democrats lost and we got handed in 2014 because we took our eye off the ball. Electing state legislature, that's just as important as electing the president. Electing a school board member is just as important as electing the president. Making sure you got a Secretary of State that's going to run a fair election system is just as important as electing the President of the United States of America. It takes teamwork to make the dream work. This is personal for me. And so I travel the country on behalf of Senator Bernie Sanders, giving his gospel of, yes, we can do this together. We can do this together. We can take this nation to the next level. And let me just say this. There is no daylight between the Senator and President Barack Obama. And I'm tired of people trying to make it seem as though it is not. And I have been one-on-one with Senator Sanders. I have been to Baltimore and Chicago with him, and Iowa, and all across this country with him. He believes deeply in the profoundness of what it means to have an American dream. He is not afraid to talk about the working poor and to say that we must continue to lift the middle class. That is his message. He does not want to end the Affordable Care Act. He just wants to take it to the next level. That is all he wants to do. He makes right the Affordable Care Act. So, sisters and brothers, I'm going to end with this. You guys got a caucus coming, and you got to bring it. You got to get there and bring your sisters and your brothers with you to that caucus. This is real. 3 things I want you to know if you don't remember anything else is that, number 1, I believe that the creator of this great universe has given us 2 hands, one to reach forward and one to reach back, lifting as we climb. We are our sisters and our brothers' keepers. If they don't have, we don't have. The poison water in Flint is our water here in Nevada, our water in Ohio, our water in New York. And all of that is about who we elect to office. A governor that has the pure, unadulterated gall. Hundreds of thousands of people have been poisoned. and he's still in office. Something is wrong with that. Senator Bernie Sanders said he needs to resign, and amen, he needs to go. He needs to go. So we are our sisters and brothers keepers. Number two, and most importantly, we can't ask other folks to do more for us than we are willing to do for ourselves. I think Brother Frederick Douglass put it this way. He said, you might not get everything that you work for, but you will work for everything that you get. We understand that. You see, I'm a Mother Jones kind of girl. And Mother Jones used to say, I will pray for the dead, but I'll fight like hell for the living. And that is how I roll at all times. That is how Senator Bernie Sanders rolls. But lastly, in the words of my grandmother was hailed from the South. She couldn't read or write, but sisters and brothers, she could count her money. She kept her money in the Southern Ladies Bank and Trust with a handkerchief. She had her director, she had her money on one side and her pistol on the other. My grandmother was one of the smartest women I've ever known, and when I asked her what does it take to be successful in life, she said, my dear granddaughter, all you need are the 3 bones. I want to leave you with grandma's 3 bones: the wishbone, the jawbone, and the backbone. She said the wishbone will keep you hoping and praying because hope is the motivator, but the dream is the driver. The reason why we do what we do each and every day is because we hope and believe that tomorrow will be better than today. She said the jawbone will give you courage to speak truth to power, or in the words of Dante's, the hottest places of hell are reserved for those who in times of great moral crisis choose neutrality. Yeah. Sisters and brothers, we got a great moral crisis on our hands when folks are living from paycheck to paycheck. We got a great moral crisis on our hands when senior citizens have to choose between their prescriptions and their food. We got a great moral crisis on our hands when our young people do what they are obligated to do, like go to college or have a trade or go to the military, but yet they are still saddled with debt. That is a moral crisis. And when we still have 29 million of our sisters and brothers in this country who do not have health care, that is a moral crisis. When people are in crisis, they don't want to hear gradual.